What I'm passionate about is I'm passionate about inspiring people in my age, like you said, especially women, that feels like they're under overwhelming expectation to be married by 30, to have a baby by a certain age, to have a certain amount of income, and to the point where they put sort of comparison on themselves.
Hi, Mark.
Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Mark.
Hey, Mark Hallie.
The Mark Hallie Show.
How did you do it and why? Hey, and welcome back to the Mark Hallie Show. Today I have a great guest. I'm pumped to talk to her, and I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to her. I wanted to give a brief description of Lauren, and hopefully I'm right. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've been sober for 12 years. You're a 31-year-old woman that you are doing a lot of transformational speaking, mostly targeted at women, roughly in your age group, and the development of a relationship sober and in your 30s and all the complexities that are there, focusing on trauma, recovery, mental health, overall well-being. Hopefully that's an accurate summary of what you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and you introduce yourself. That's what we want to hear about.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark, and thank you so much for having me. I feel honored to be able to come on your podcast and share my story and, my experience of life. But yeah, I'm a motivational speaker. I've been speaking from the age of 18, 19 years old when I first got sober from drugs, alcohol, bulimia, depression, anxiety, all the traumas that come with it.
Yeah, you wrapped it up. You hit them all.
I hit them all. I got an A in all of them as well. What I'm passionate about is I'm passionate about inspiring people in my age. Like you said, especially women. A lot of my clients are either women or men. But there's two types. There's the higher achiever, which is someone that puts a lot of pressure on themselves to be a certain way, to act a certain way, where they leave themselves feeling burnt out, which is something that I experienced within my adulthood and my childhood. And then end up turning to drink and drugs and food to change where they feel. And then the other is the person that feels like they're under overwhelming expectation to be married by 30, to have a baby by a certain age, to have a certain amount of income, and to the point where they put sort of comparison on themselves. And
I think that women have a different challenge than men. Having 5 daughters, it's supposed to be smart, independent, equal rights, really pretty, and have 2 kids, which is it's just
really,
that's my observation with women. And that's unfair. Guys can be a little chubby, not as, freaked out about how they look, and, create relationships. And I think that's a much more difficult one for women. With that in mind,
I don't disagree.
Yeah, with that in mind, I know that you got out of rehab, spent some time as a counselor with people with drugs, and somehow that developed into finding your focus in motivational speaking. What caused that shift, or where did you see that shift?
I saw that shift mainly when I started working for the Amy Winehouse Foundation, which was Amy Winehouse's parents starting up to help people go into schools that were young addicts to do talks, to share their story. And that kind of light my life of speaking from a very young age, because the feeling that I got when I got up on stage and I shared my story and helped others was just one of like unbelievable happiness and contentment. And that was like the start of my journey. And, I've done a lot of talks at festivals. I've done a lot of talks for companies or brands. I've done, talks for employees. I've done talks for retreats. And the speaking for me is like generally where I feel the most comfortable. But it's only because I know deep down that I've got a story to tell. So when I share my story, it takes the power out of it, but also it helps other people relate to my experience, because I've had this thing growing up where, a lot of people would look at me and they would not in a cocky way, but they'll be like, oh, you are a beautiful girl. You are slim. You do have this, you do have that. But then I shared about my struggles, right? I shared that by the age of 14, 15 years old, I had a credible eating disorder when I was modeling. I grew up in a really nice area, to a really nice family. I grew up Jewish, in quite a small tight-knit Jewish community. Reason why I share about the tight-knit Jewish community is because, everyone is trying to, like, be a part of the community, and there's a lot of expectation within that community. And I got not told at a young age, but I got, like, kind of seen that there was a certain way of living and being, and that was, go to university, get a degree, get married, have kids. And the people I was around were very successful, um, like, incredible, beautiful people, and I, at that young age, felt like that was the only way to live that life.
Yeah,
And
that's the
from the
way a
age
woman succeeds. This is step
exactly,
one. Hmm.
exactly. And when you have that overwhelming feeling of pressure, you are led to feeling that pressure. And I went down that role of basically trying to change myself from a very young age. Like, when I was 11 years old, I went to primary school. Um, I tried to be the class clown. I tried to become the most populist girl in school, or I tried to starve myself so that I would be skinny. Or by the age of 16 years old, I was working at Abercrombie and Hollister, and I was wearing makeup and working in nightclubs, surrounding myself around celebrities because that was the expectation of what was cool. And the reason why I share this is because what you saw on the outside, trying to fit this mold of what everyone else thought was cool. And that's why Instagram is, like, huge nowadays, because everyone's trying to portray this certain thing. Underneath, I was living a lie because I was trying to keep up with that facade. And I
You know,
had
as
many
as it
faces.
it's interesting that you say that because there's the problem with. I was brought up in an Irish Catholic community, which shares a lot of the guilt with the Jewish community. We have expectations, sin, all these things that are
Mm,
thrown at you. We're supposed to be the man on the on the white horse, with the shining armor. We're great. We're going to come in and roar away, and that plays a significant role as a man. I
mm.
tried and did project that. Very popular, played sports, everything, but much like you, there was that shit wasn't what I was. And how did you get clean? Like, what did you do? You have to
Well,
hit
I
some
was
spot
very,
where you.
well, I was very, very blessed. And the reason why I say blessed, and this is what I was talking to your daughter about, is that I grew up with family members that were addicts, but also family members that were in recovery. And
Mm-hmm.
my second cousin, I knew from a very young age was like, she got sober very young, and she's 20 now, 30 years sober. And I got introduced to alcohol and drugs very young, but I also got introduced to AA and recovery very young. And I had two family members that had issues of alcohol, but I also had two family members that were also sober and went into rehab and changed their life around. So my biggest thing when I identified had a problem was easy because I understood there was a difference between drinking and alcoholism,
And
and
getting
drugging
hammered.
and drug addiction.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So when I had a really bad problem, and I started drinking at 12. I started going to, like, bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, the back of my garden, and I was drinking vodka. And then by the age of 14, 15 years old, I got introduced to marijuana, and then ecstasy and MDMA. And then by the time I was 18, 19 years old, I was in university with a drug dealer, living with him and doing ketamine in the morning.
And
And
ketamine, I understand you had a rare a rare disease about anesthetics, and that could,
how do you know that?
ketamine. But I listened to you. I tracked you down.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a what
I
am I
never
called? Yeah,
share that.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't
No, it's
burst any
amazing that
bubbles.
you
I
no, it's
just heard
amazing
it.
because I
Well,
remember you
because
share that a lot, yeah.
yeah, because
I
I
probably
well,
said it.
being somebody who's been around the addicted world, it's no great secret that somebody says, "Oh, you got a hole in your heart," and they're like, "Oh, fine, I'll do tons of cocaine." So uh, what is that? What is the what was the problem, or what made you stupid for doing ketamine?
I don't know.
But you had
I
a
had
health
a
issue.
I had a perforated eardrum when I was 12 years old. And from that perforated eardrum, I went into an operation, and I nearly died. And I never really share this. I don't know. I've like blocked out of my life and I nearly died. And I came out of that operation literally like blood. And they were like, you had allergic reaction to a certain anesthetic in that operation. And my parents were like, what the hell? And they were like, this is really rare. You have something, you need to go and get a muscle biopsy to check if you've got something called malignant hypothermia, which is a really, really rare thing. Like it's like 1 in a million people have it. And it's a family genetic thing. And basically, if I ever have anesthetics, like these certain anesthetics, I could die. And I remember them saying to me when I was like 15 years old, they were like, just don't have ketamine. Like ketamine could be really dangerous for you. But by the
I'm going to go
age
get
of
that.
18, yeah, well, by the age of 18, 19 years old, like all my friends were going to raves and doing ketamine. And I just like, because I had no moralistic compass and I didn't give a care about my life, I just did it.
Yeah, yeah. You're
And I was
young and
basically
stupid.
facing, yeah, I was facing my addiction every day and doing something really stupid. But at the time, did I care? Because I actually hated myself. So
Yeah.
why did that matter? Like in my head, because I had such incredibly low self-esteem and I hated myself, why, like, that didn't even cross my mind that I could have died.
Well, now, uh, you know, I've been sober my whole adult life. Um,
How long have you been
37,
sober for?
37 years.
Nice.
And, so I don't want to get this about me, but marched through life clean, married with 5 daughters, which will flip your concept of you get to see the world through a woman's eyes. And you
Mm,
get to, which I am not a woman. I've learned more than anything, but it's just trippy the way, I don't know, I go from a dude's environment to now a woman's environment. Now Bridget had a granddaughter and now I got,
mm,
um, there's no male in my life. So actually I love it just because it gives me such a perspective. But
mm.
with you, so you went to rehab, and then when you came out of that, at some point you decided to become a counselor on a one-on-one level with people that are having a struggle with addiction.
Yeah, I
At
mean, the
what? At
counseling, sorry,
Go ahead. No,
okay.
you go ahead.
No, I was just saying the counseling didn't come till I was 24. I actually was a personal trainer. I've always
Oh,
been fitness. I've always been into fitness and health. I'm passionate about fitness and health. I still love fitness and health. And I became a personal trainer. And it wasn't until I got offered to move to Hong Kong and live in Hong Kong from ages 21 to 23, 24, that I made that conscious decision to come back and do an addiction counseling course that I decided to help people with addiction. But it all
y-
came under, because what was happening was that what I found was that most of my clients had issues.
yeah. You mean
And most of
issues with
my
some form of compulsion or personality dysmorphia or
anything,
whatever you want to call it?
anything, because
Yeah.
addiction is anything, right? And food
Oh,
addiction has
yeah.
always been something that I've been passionate about speaking about, because I had bulimia and I had a food addiction. And most of my clients that would come to me all had some sort of thing that they were running away from. And my fascination around addiction and understanding addiction became very prevalent in my life, because obviously I came from a family of addicts.
Hmm. Well,
And that's when I,
talking about addiction, it's so interesting the similarities. I got out of rehab. I work out like a madman. Always have. When I go get a soda, I get the biggest one. I'm not getting some small soda. That's for chickens. I'm bringing it. Give me the big one. And I always joke around that you're sort of shifting things in your life that are maybe compulsive, but they're less harmful.
100%.
So you're marching along this path, helping people. At some point, there's something in there that pulls you to public speaking, which I know that feeling. It's almost like you have no control. It's just pulling you. And
Yeah, I
and
love it.
what was pulling you?
I've always been a people person.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm known as the person that everyone knows, and I light up a room with my positivity energy, and it's all about energy for me. And not in a cocky way, I know what I'm bad at. There's a lot of things I'm bad at. I'm not good at maths, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been able to go in front of a room and inspire people. Um, and when people, and I've been told, yet again, not in a cocky way, but I've been told that people gravitate towards my voice and my energy, and that they learn something from me speaking. Um, and when I get told that, I fully believe it, and I fully believe that that is what I'm meant to do in life. And I've never been nervous. I've never been nervous to go in front of a stage and speak to 100, 200 people. It doesn't scare me. But when I leave that stage and when I leave that talk, it's almost like, when you know it's meant to be,
Mm-hmm. And
and
you
you
know
have
it's
that
meant to be.
feeling.
Do you? I mean, okay. Have you ever had any problems with being like a people pleaser?
Oh, 100%. Growing up, 100%.
I heard you
100%.
say that on one of your interviews, and I'm like, okay, I'm all over that. How did that hurt you?
What, being a people pleaser?
Yeah,
I think most alcoholics and addicts are people pleasers. Do you
of
disagree?
course. Bring them to hell no. Hell no.
I
We're making up for something in there. We got to run around and just
we
say yes to everybody.
Yeah, a lot of my clients that I work with, I work with them a lot around boundaries, and I think the foremost component of substance abuse is the feeling of not being loved and abandonment and rejection. And somewhere along the lines within my childhood, and I won't go too much into my childhood because, I've shared about it a lot of times, but there was something along the lines within my childhood where I felt lack of love. And
Mm-hmm.
when I didn't feel that love, I had to compensate. And I couldn't say no to people a lot of the time, because the feeling of saying no to someone and leaving that and then not liking me afterwards would terrify me. So growing up, all I wanted to do was be liked
Yeah, I used to go
because it
around.
gave me something.
When I was early in my marriage, I would go to a party with 50 people, and I would talk to everybody, like everybody in the room.
Mm.
And my wife, I'd
I'm
come
still
back
like
to,
that, but yeah.
yeah, I'd come back to me too. I get a buzz out of it. But
Yeah.
I come back to my wife and I'm like, oh, I'm so exhausted. And she's like, well, you didn't have to talk to everybody. But I'm like,
Mm,
oh no, you don't understand. I did.
mm.
It's in a weird way. I need to make everyone look at me and laugh or appreciate me. So you feel, it sounds to me like you have a similar thing going on.
I think I'm still like that. I think I'm learning a lot about boundaries. Like, look, I'm totally honest about my stuff, right? I do feel like I do love to be around people, and I do like people to know who I am. And maybe that comes
Okay.
from ego, maybe that comes from attention, but I think that's my personality, and I think that's
Well,
what I've always been like.
that drives you. You know, I was talking to my psychologist and I used to say, oh my God, they almost think I'm an asshole and this, that, and the other thing. And he's like, Mark, I think most people think it's a gift. And
I think it's
why
a
don't you
gift.
just, why don't you just go out? Man, if that's giving you a buzz, which I too became a motivational speaker. And when I'm up on stage, it's like, in a way, I'm high. I'm ripping.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
like, it's a release.
Mhm.
Now, okay, so the thing that touched my attention, and I know you've spoken about, so it's not exactly a perfect thing, but you have this focus now on women in their 30s who are sober. They're trying to find a functional relationship or a healthy relationship. They're obviously trying to look beautiful still, and all the pressures that you mentioned on you. Well, tell me about that. What makes it so hard to find that? I think I know the answer, but tell me anyway.
Yeah, I think when you turn 30 years old, everything changes. You start to, like, really not give a shit what people think, and that really happened for me. I started to make change within what I want to do with my life. Like, I literally quit my job and moved to Bali a month after I turned 30 years old. And it
Hmm.
was the best thing I ever did. I literally quit a job where I was burnt out, I was stressed, I was smoking cigarettes by the end, I was feeling sad all
Mm-hmm.
the time. And I said to myself, what do you want out of life? And I've always been very good at changing my life whenever I need to change my life. But what I see is a lot of women that turn 30 and then they're like, oh, I should be like this at 30 years old. I'm not like this.
As you've progressed over time, you focused your public speaking much more on, I'd say, 30-year-old women, today's environment where it's difficult to find a relationship, a meaningful relationship, and at the
Mm,
same time, not losing yourself within that. I think
mm.
that's fair to say. Um, Tell me about that transition to that, how you found that audience from your life, which sounds like that's your life. Anyway, that's all. Let me hear what
Yeah.
you have to say.
Yeah. Um, when I was 30 years old, I'm 31 now, right? Like a lot of things started to make sense to me. And when we spoke about people pleasing, I had a really bad work addiction, and a lot of my like my purpose in life was from money and work. And it wasn't unhealthy, but I just wanted to excel. And I think when I turned 29, 30 years old, I started to ask myself a lot of questions of like, what do I want out of life? Like, what is actually going to truly make you happy? Whilst I was in a very, very intense job, and I was basically doing everything for this company, working there for 3, 4 years and not getting appreciated enough. And by the time I turned 30, I had traveled to Bali for a month. I was in between jobs, and I went to this place where I fell in love. And I said to myself, I don't want to stay in this job anymore. I don't want to do what I'm doing, this 9 to 5 job. And, you know, that's terrifying for a lot of people, right? To actually change their whole life at the age of 30. And I decided at the age of 30 to literally get up, move to Bali, leave my job, and change my whole life around. And it was the best thing I ever
That's a
did.
big one.
And
That's a big one.
it's a huge one, and my parents are like, "What the hell are you doing? This is crazy." And a year and a half later, I swear to God, my parents are like, "You are thriving. You've done the best thing you ever done." And the reason why I love to help people in their 30s is because you can get up and change your life at any time. And I'm 31 years old. I'm still single. I haven't found the love of my life. I'd love to find him. It hasn't come yet. I fully have belief that it will come, but it hasn't. I don't have a don't have a mortgage. I don't have kids, and that's okay because I'm happy. And I don't look at anyone else and compare myself because I've truly believed that I am who I am, and I've learned to love myself who I am, and that comes with time and it comes with age, but it also comes with a lot of acceptance. So I've had a lot of acceptance, but I know what you're going to ask me. You're like going to ask me how you've done it. And I truly do
Mm-hmm.
believe that working myself on a daily basis, I do believe that AA has helped me. I do believe that putting boundaries in has helped me. I do believe that, finding what works for me, you know, eating well, going to the gym, starting to do what my passions are in life, and growing my self-esteem, my self-worth has really helped me. And then also just being okay with not being okay and being okay with failure,
Well,
has really, really
failure is
helped me.
huge. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
going to be any good, I think in the world you're living, you're going to get smacked, pushed, knocked down, all of
Thank you
that.
very
But
much.
the difference, the difference between
I
your
know.
life and mine is I was single and clean at 27, and I had to find, I wanted to get married, and I found my wife, and then I ran into the problem of I'm not drinking, and we're going to go out and have dinner, and I'm like, oh shit, what do I do? So, have
Mhm.
you run into that?
What, going on dates with guys and being sober
Yeah.
all the time, all the time. And it's so
How do you
hard.
get past that? How do you get past that? He has a drink, and oh, what are you going to have to drink?
It doesn't bother me if a guy drinks. What bothers me is when a guy feels weird towards me that I don't drink. And it's very far from not that a guy feels okay with you being sober, I feel. And it's been hard to navigate that and understand that because the first and foremost thing that I have in my life is my sobriety. It's the most important thing that I have. And it's probably the first thing that I actually say to a guy when I meet them, or like not the first one, but it's crucial. And I think it's about learning to understand that not everyone is going to be on that journey, but also knowing that there will come a time in a day that there is someone that does. But how to navigate it is very difficult. And I've
I
had
used
struggles with it.
no, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I used a method
That's right.
that was, I said for some reason or another, oh, I'm not feeling well, or gee, I have a big thing tomorrow. And then that gave me the opportunity to observe that individual wanting to drink. because they
Mm,
thought I was a drinker. I
mm,
just had a bad cold or something to that effect. So it would be
hmm.
interesting if that person got hammered. Well, you'd be like, okay, that's a strike. We're not going to go back to that one. Um,
I've had that, by the
so
way. I've had that. I've been on a date with a guy in Hong Kong who took me to a steak restaurant, and he was like, "I'm gonna have a wine," and he had a wine. I was like, "Fine, steak and wine." Then he had a vodka shot, and I was like, "What?" And then he had tequila, and then he was trying to kiss me when he was paralytically drunk, and I was sober, and I was like, "What?" I'm like,
it's,
"That's a no."
it's like a monster coming at you.
Literally. But
So now
it's a
you have all the
problem.
social media, going on, like
No.
swipe and who is it, and a
Yeah.
picture, and like, oh, I like to work out, and how the hell? Well, that has to just be a challenge. Um, what's that environment like?
Bloody hard.
Hmm.
I think at this day and age, it's much harder to date and to settle because of the disposable swiping and the options and the games. I've come across. Actually, I've made a rule to not follow anyone I'm dating on social media for the first like couple of months because there's been a lot of like liking my photos, looking at my stories, and then playing games. So I've decided not to do that. And then them knowing so much about my life is another one. It's hard out there. I don't find dating easy. I am very honest about my dating life. And how I've never found it easy to settle and find men. I have a very interesting life where it's unconventional. Like I've lived in Hong Kong, I've lived in London, I've lived in Bali, I travel a bit. I don't have a conventional 9 to 5. I'm always doing something new, and it's very hard for a guy to keep up with that. And but yet
Hmm.
again, it goes back to trusting your own journey and trusting that there is someone that will love you for the way you are. And the one thing that I've really kind of I haven't shared this before, but I grew up thinking that I was too loud and thinking that I was a tomboy and thinking that I had a deep voice. And I not that I got told it, but I was around all of the girly girls and I was actually a
Yeah.
tomboy and had a deep voice and I would love to play sports and whatever. And I changed myself for so many years to the point where actually like by the age of 21, I didn't actually know who I was because I was wearing makeup, I was wearing dresses, I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. And to go back to stripping of your authenticity and not really caring about what people think is terrifying because actually, like deep down, you know that if you're trying to be someone else, then it's much easier. There's a saying, ignorance is bliss.
Here goes. Here goes. Yeah. I wish I was really dumb. I really do.
Yeah.
Just, well, I don't really do, but uh, might, well, I don't know. I'm not. So who am I to make judgment on that?
No, and nor am
You
I.
know,
And I have a problem where I'm very sensitive and I'm a Cancer and I feel so much and I love so much and I have a lot of energy and I walk into a room and I feel everyone's energy. And when you get sober from the age of 18, 19 years old, you also have something which is incredible, but also it can be the opposite, which is awareness. And when you have so much
hmm.
awareness, like you said, you feel so hard and you know so much. And sometimes when you feel so hard, you're so deep and you know so much, it's very, very difficult to actually find someone that's also on that path. And I talk a lot
Yeah.
about awake and asleep. And there's a lot of people that aren't awake, a lot of people are asleep. And that's what I find very difficult because when I meet guys, they don't really get me. They don't understand me because of what I've been through in my life and where I've gone to. And it's like I've tried to dumb myself or change myself for that, but actually by the age of 30, I want a lot of women to understand that you are the way you are, and you need to love yourself the way you are, and I've learned to actually love myself for who I am, and I think it's a blessing and a curse to have that awareness. I think it's a blessing and a curse to have sobriety in your corner because like I said, it's much easier to not feel your feelings. It's much easier to not feel the pain. It's much easier to not deal with X, Y, and Z. That's why I drank. It was easier.
Yeah. It numbs everything. It just numbs it. You go, drink a bunch, and then, for me, snort a bunch of cocaine. So now I'm drunk and turned on, and ripping. Now I'm having blackouts. Um, did you experience a lot of just out of like depression, anxiety?
Oh,
Uh,
all
I,
of
I
it.
presume grinding, the two,
So
like
bad.
Yeah, yeah, that's a terrible feeling. Just feels like you're, just there's three lions right around you, and you're going to get eaten. You're
Yeah.
just going to get eaten. Now,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you had success. I think you were saying, speaking in smaller social environments. Did you say at clubs? And I kind of got a little murky on that exactly, but you started to make a
No, I
fair amount
was
of money.
no, I was working in clubs, and I stopped working in clubs
Oh,
at 22. But I was
oh,
speaking a
working
lot
them
in
as
like
in.
I was
Go ahead.
hosting
I'm
tables
sorry.
in clubs when I was drinking.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
good. I mean, well, why not? You got to do what you got to do for your audience. You
Mm,
got to get where they are. That's just what you got to do. But you're
yeah.
you're also obviously in an environment that's exacerbating what you are.
Yeah.
Feeding into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we start. We're clean, and we're doing the counseling. The counseling is giving you something that's fulfilling, but not enough.
Mm.
And you move to public speaking. And is it at that point that you start to get a much larger audience? Because you have a lot of followers.
Yeah, for me, it was more about like speaking, working with brands, being in publications. So I've been in a lot of like magazines talking about my
Yeah.
story, like The Sun, The Daily Mail, The Independent, Tyler. I was awarded top 10 motivational speaker, Yahoo Finance. So it's just more about like the publications and the brands that I was working with. Like I'd worked with Sky, I recently worked with the Hard Rock Cafe, I worked with protein companies. I did some work with the NHS. Like I recently went to the House of Parliament last year and worked with Alcohol Change UK, which is a company that was trying to limit alcohol abuse. Like worked with Dry January, which I'm currently doing in this January. And then you just build a following that's like people that want to be sober. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
And so how the hell does that happen? You're hanging. You're a cocktail waitress effectively, and you
I'm
feel
a
this.
hostess, not a cocktail waitress.
My apologies. My dearest
We
apologies.
don't say
But
that in London.
you
It's a bit more
but oh, don't
cocktail
you? Is
waitress.
that wrong? Cocktail. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Um,
No,
well, whatever.
hostess.
Okay, hostess. I'm sorry. In America, it's a cocktail waitress. But now there's something that I think of it like your innards are just pulling you, and then that's my question is then it jumps to all these things that
Mm.
even for myself I'm fascinated. How does a younger woman gain attention there?
I think first things first, to get sober at 18 and being a female, like what, 15 years ago, it's very uncommon. It's not normal.
Yeah, over and common.
Like
Yeah, no, it's
I
not.
was very different to most people. Um, and then working for Amy Winehouse and her parents, going into schools. I was in a publication in maybe it was the Daily Mail that was talking with Amy Winehouse's dad. Yet again, not common. Um, and then posting about my sobriety journey. Yet again, not common. And then from that, you boost a following because you find a niche. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I've always basically done. Um, and I've been on a lot of podcasts and I've just like put myself out there. I always put myself out there. Like I think I messaged you. Well, I message
Mm-hmm.
you guys. I
Yeah.
always say to people that, if you have a story to tell, don't wait around for people to hear it, share it. And that's what I
Get
did.
out
I
and
just
let it
put
rip.
myself out there. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. And then what's it like having some, acclaim, now, you want the attention, you love the attention. We talked about it possibly being some sort of a people pleasing thing, but on the other side, you've accepted that you're cool with that. So those are wonderful personality developments. But now to some extent, you are. Now does that change your people's perception of you, or do you notice that all of a sudden somebody's being nice to you that you wouldn't think they would have been nice to you?
Uh, I don't really know how to answer that question. I think people, there has been people that treat me differently because I have followers. And I don't necessarily think followers mean anything. I don't necessarily, that
Mm-hmm.
means that I'm any more important than anyone else. Um, but I like to treat people for who they are. I don't care how many followers you have. I don't care if you live in a shack. I like to be equal for everyone. But at the end of the day, like the one thing that I wanted to portray on social media was my authenticity and not editing my photos, not trying to be something I'm not, not trying to, you know, pretend like I'm any different. And I didn't want to target the algorithm and, try and just get likes and comment just because of the sake of it. Like, actually, I said to someone the other day, like, I find it really hard on Instagram because there are a lot of people that are trying to target the algorithm and trying to, get likes and comments because they're going to get X, Y, and Z. And for me, I find it hard to show up like that. Um,
Hmm.
so I find it hard to navigate Instagram, and social media. I don't post when I don't want to post. And I don't plan posts just because of X, Y, and Z. I just generally have a mission, and my mission is to help people and inspire people to actually do what they want to do and believe in themselves no matter what. And I think I'm doing well, and I think that that's why I have a following. But the reason why I want to have a following is because I want a lot of people to see that. It's not because of fame or
Sure,
anything
sure.
else. It's just
And it's
generally that that
authentic.
that story. I'm trying, yeah,
Mm,
trying to be authentic as I
yeah, yeah.
can.
I, I was, I was, I was seized by a passion, and that was I wanted somebody to say I'm good. And the path I found for me was through, I got massively passionate about having children, had 5 of them,
Mm,
and
true.
success in business. But there was a lot for me, much like you. It just, you can't get there. Is there enough? Is there enough? Why am I not good enough? Shouldn't I be better?
Mm,
Did you get to the top of the mountain? Uh, and just very briefly, I had my therapist say to me, "Do you realize you're there? You know, you're 59. You've sold your business. You're doing well. You have a nice house. You have a nice blah 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 blah. Do you realize you're there?" And my answer was, "I don't think so. I mean,
mm.
I've made myself a lot stronger." And then he was like, "Do you think you can just enjoy being there?"
But that's the
And
problem
I
that everyone
paused.
has.
I paused. I was like, I said, "No, no, I'm not ready to just hang out in the forest. You know, I'm just not doing it. You know." So I think that's a good thing. But are you? Do you think you're getting there?
For the first time in my life, when I moved to Bali, I said to myself that I want to slow down. And a lot of people, they say to me, what's next? Like, I could write a book right now, or I could do more. But I'm actually, in the last year, I've actually been doing a lot of me, and having more work life balance and actually going out, having fun and slowing down. Like, you know, I want to enjoy what is right in front of me, and I want to enjoy like what I've done within my life. Like, if I were to die today, I would generally be happy with my life. I've lived a fucking sorry, I mean swear, an amazing life.
That's okay.
But I do think that as human beings, we have an addiction for more, because
Yeah.
in order to sit still and do nothing is terrifying. And
Oh,
and we get high off dopamine and serotonin, and it makes us feel good. But yeah, again, you're right.
yeah,
There
it
is
does.
this feeling of actually just enjoying. And that's why I moved out of London, because I found London was constantly so fast paced that I was always constantly being told that you're next and do this. Why not doing that? Let's do more, more, more. And then I moved to a place like Bali, which is very slow paced, and actually just enjoying the simple, small moments. And that's why I'm much happier, because I am happier just enjoying the beach or my daily run or the acai bowl or the person that's chatting to me. And it's much more
Yeah.
chilled there. That's why I'm happier, pretty much.
And do you feel that that's a good environment for trying to find this good relationship and staying
100%.
sober? Is that an environment?
100%.
Really?
Yeah. Why
Good for
wouldn't you
you.
think any
Good for
different?
you. Well, why wouldn't I think any different? I never thought why the problem was, you know? Looking at you, I thought this is a wonderful young lady. She's a pretty young lady. She's driven, you know? I mean, come on. I could see the problems though, is men, you know, men are afraid of of women that have drive. Not all of them.
Welcome
I
to my
think
world.
there's a lot of It's just, what are you going to do? What do you change you and become, a girly girl? What do you,
I've
you know?
tried so much.
Anyway, no, I like to ask a question that maybe is a little more deep. Is, why do you think you did it? Why?
Mm,
What
mm,
is the deeper why? If
I
you
love
know what
that
I'm
question.
saying, or am I? Yeah.
Um, I did it because I didn't love myself, and I didn't love myself from a very young age. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood that really affected me. I didn't. I felt like, and I've got a very close relationship to my family now, but I felt that I didn't feel love that I needed within my childhood. Um, I felt incredibly a lot of pressure in society. I went to go hypnotherapy when I went for my A-level exams because I was terrified that I was going to fail innately. Um, I didn't have any self-worth. I had low self-esteem, and drinking and drugs and food and bulimia and, all of that stuff. And the knock-on effect was incredibly low self-esteem and depression, anxiety, but it took away all of that fear that I had towards my future. Um, and I just didn't see myself as wanting to live for a very long time. Because from the ages of like 4 years old to the ages of 18, there was always something bad happening in my life and I couldn't accept it.
Mm,
Until
mm,
I learned to have acceptance around, recovery, acceptance around papers, places, people, and things, right? And then rebuilding
mm,
my life and rebuilding who I am as an individual and learning that I cannot change anyone other than myself. And then when you start to rebuild your life and start to build your self-esteem and self-worth, you realize that actually you are good enough, no matter what.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the deep question was I didn't love myself.
Yeah. Okay. That's not uncommon. Well, I
Hmm.
think with recovering people. Well,
Mm.
Lauren White, uh, just want to thank you so much for coming on.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. Like to be able to connect with someone that's like been on that journey, a little bit older than me, is doing something to help others as well. Like it's meant to be for a reason, and keep doing what you're doing and keep inspiring people and bringing people on that have all the walks of life and all the stories to tell because people need to hear it. Um, so that it makes them feel like they can then change their life and do something different and also get honest about whatever's going through their self. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to The Mark Halley Show. If you found this story as intriguing as we did, give us a like, share the episode, and subscribe at The Mark Howley Show. New episodes every other Friday. Adios.